Dun, dun, dun. Here we are. Hi, I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions. And this is the San Carlos Computer Club. We meet every Tuesday at 10. That's San Carlos Sonoran time or Arizona time. Same time zone. Non-observant of daylight savings. Oh, look at this. Emily's coming. Should we let you in, young one? Welcome.
Uh, Hello.
Hello. Welcome. I just pressed the go button on YouTube, so you're live online with the San Carlos Computer Club. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hi.
So we were just getting started, and
Good morning. Good morning, Em. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning.
my gosh, Emily, you're 20 years old.
You don't have to keep bringing it up.
Ooh. Well, it's an exciting moment in my life too.
Well, in that case,
Mhm.
um, wait for me to be like, never, do you know what deafened means? Never mind. Never mind.
Hey,
Never mind.
Judy's
I'm just
with
gonna
us.
hang
Good
up.
morning, Judy. Sorry we couldn't do it in person today.
Judy is muted and we can't hear what she's saying.
Oh, we still
Judy, do you
can't
know
hear
you're
what she's
muted?
saying. You're still muted, Judy.
Judy, you're muted and we can't hear you. Oh, she knows. She knows. She can't get her microphone to work.
Oh,
I'm reading lips. I'm
Oh,
reading
shit.
lips.
what device is she on? The iPad?
iPad, I believe she said. Yeah. Can you unmute her?
No. I can mute her, but I can't unmute her.
Oh,
All
mute
right.
me. Mute me.
Log in again.
Yeah, maybe restart it. The only reason I could think that it might be muted would, well, it's like somehow you've disabled the microphone. Like the software knows that there's a microphone there, but it's in like this constant mute state.
Sometimes when I join, if there's more than 2 or 3 people on, it seems like they
Start
mute
muted.
you when you get in.
Yeah, there's Mom.
I see Mom.
Welcome. Good morning. Oh, and Chester's joined us too. Hello, Chester. Well, this is the San Carlos Computer Club. Welcome. I've already hit the YouTube button, so we are streaming out there live. And we do this every Tuesday, and we start with some just basic topics. I like to re-mention the Bill of Digital Rights. We've seen a lot of things happen in a short period of time that I think would be covered by such a thing, and I want to continue to push this as an idea. I want us talking about in casual conversations. I think that this should take whatever form it's supposed to take and whatever level of government it needs to take. They should be thinking about these kinds of things as they're passing rules in legislation. I don't have anything other than that as far as topics and ideas, and so I've got a couple of news articles I thought would be interesting. But in typical fashion, I'm much more interested in what's going on out there with you guys. So if any of you have a topic or a question or news they want to share, please tell me now, and yeah, we can share it now. Does anyone out there have anything new, any tech hurdle they've gotten over recently?
I have a silly game that I've downloaded and it's driving me crazy, but it's called Jig Solitaire. And you do these little jigsaw puzzles and then you make bigger ones. And yeah, it's kind of kept me occupied.
Jig solitary? Is that J-I...
Jig, like
J-I-G?
jigsaw, Sol, Solitaire, solitaire.
Solitaire. And it's a game.
Yeah, it's a jigsaw puzzle.
I stopped doing those jigsaw puzzles of our artwork. I stopped doing the artwork. Maybe I should get back into that. Or maybe Emily's interested in doing some of that. I see Judy's got her hand up.
I do. I finally got into the meet. It says there are 35 people in the meet when I try to join, and it kept muting me and not letting me unmute myself.
That's crazy. Not to mention there's only 6 of us.
I understand, but it says when I tried to join, there's 35 people, 21 waiting to join.
Well, I had no idea we were so popular.
I know, but I had the weirdest login experience. It kept saying, I sent you a screenshot of what it was telling me on your messages.
Oh, in email or
No, message.
Let me
iMessage.
Let me see your screenshot.
Do you see it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Isn't that weird?
I don't see the count you're talking about though. Where is that?
No, it wasn't on that one. It wouldn't even let me join on that one.
You can't join this video. You have been shut off. That's bizarre.
Isn't it? So anyway, I finally got on to the meet.
Well, awesome. And I think I found the game that Cheryl was recommending. Jig Solitaire. I forgot the E on the end of Solitaire. I'm going to put the link in here in case anyone's interested. This is actually going to be for the Google Play Store app. So if you're on Android, but it's enough information. You should be able to find it in the App Store and in your iPhone or your iPad.
You can also play it for free on jigsolitaire.net. I'm learning right now.
Oh, all right. So you can play it through a web browser.
Mm-hmm.
Jigsolitary.net.
Not a very good website. So.
I spelled something wrong there.
So that's one little time occupier. The other thing is we have a question. We do have a question about Starlink satellite services.
Oh,
and
excellent.
Taking them with you when you go to Mexico. And at the same time, my friend is coming to Mexico. She has a Starlink and she has IPTV. And is it her IPTV or her Starlink that says if she's more than 60 days? Yeah, one of them says if she's going to be away from her home location for more than 60 days, then she has to sign up or do something. But she has up to 60 days where she can take it wherever she wants.
I have IPTV with Linda Gerber in it, but that's a different, they're all different. And hers doesn't say that. She just has to sometimes notify her company that I am back in the US or whatever.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
that was a notification from the IPTV service that she was using. I was thinking that was a Starlink notification.
I think it's Starlink rather than IPTV.
I think it's Starlink. I think it's Starlink. Yeah. She said originally she was coming for less than 60 days, but now they've added some time on, so they're going to be away for more than 60. And so she would like to.
I can only speak generally towards Starlink and roaming. That's the way I think of that. And They do have an actual roaming program that you pay a specific rate for, and you're able to use it wherever you happen to be. But it makes sense that they would want you to re-register your location if you stayed past a certain period of time.
Yeah, and I think money is involved in what she's going to be paying for it or something.
Yeah,
But
you know, she might even find that if she was coming down here, she's getting a better rate doing it through Mexico. I mean, she definitely would be, because I think what it is it's what satellite you would be connected with, what range of satellites you would be connected with regularly. And down here, I think they actually pay a cheaper rate for their Starlink service.
This was recently discussed on Viva.
Oh, really? What did they say there, Chester?
Well, I can't remember. You may want to check back the last couple of days.
Yeah, there was somebody looking to have help setting it up in San Carlos or something, and she wanted to know if anybody had done it recently or had any tips or something. But our internet here is bad, and well, pretty good right now. But we were wondering about it. It might be time to buy the Starlink.
Your question was, do you have to use a VPN?
Oh, okay, so Starlink is your provider. Do you put a VPN on it, or do you put it on your TV?
Well, you run a
the-
VPN through it, and so how do you do that becomes the question. Is if you want to do a VPN through your Starlink, many of the consumer Starlink without any modifications doesn't have the way to put a piece of hardware in between you and them.
Right.
So you would run a software VPN on your computer or your Fire Stick or whatever device will support a third-party piece of software to run a VPN. Most of that is because people are trying to do television outside of their region area. And so it either has to be a streaming box that can load a software VPN, or you can do some crazy stuff like a wireless adapter router, like a router that can pull in a wireless signal and then rebroadcast it. So like say you but none of that. Yeah, I mean, what makes the most sense is to use a hardware VPN, unless you're satisfied with just the software devices. Like you could have a new Fire Stick and you can't put a VPN on it. You could have a Roku and you can't put a VPN on it. And so those kinds of devices wouldn't work. It's basically the same rules for any other internet provider. The thing is, when you get internet from Telmex, they give you a device that allows you to connect another device to it if you want through an Ethernet cable. And the Starlink, the consumer Starlink with no modifications, connects to a Wi-Fi, and that's it, a Wi-Fi access point. So whatever you plan on doing without modification, you have to go through Wi-Fi to do it. And that's why I say it would have to be installed in the laptop or installed in the streaming box, because there isn't a piece of hardware you can put in between. And there are hardware, but that's all modifications. Those are all additives to the Starlink to make that happen. Starlink sells a Ethernet connector so that you can modify that Wi-Fi adapter, and you can plug in an Ethernet cable, and then you can load like a router that has VPN in it that can broadcast, or it can be connected to a mesh network, and so everything would flow through that VPN. And then you could run things like a Roku or one of the more modern Fire Sticks that are being released. A Roku or something that's incapable of hosting a VPN. That's what it comes down to, is what's hosting the VPN. But it runs the same through Starlink as it would through Telcel or Telmex or mega cable, as long as those services don't actively block VPN technology, then you just run it exactly the same way. We have gone through periods of time where they've been hostile to VPNs and blocked them. And they opened them up because there's so much remote work that needs to be done securely. And so all the internet providers had to open themselves up to it was a security issue, is that you're locking down everything that's not being used. And then they started blocking VPNs inadvertently. And so then they had to go through and open that up. And that was all a time period in internet growth for years, as they dialed in what kind of securities get opened up. And nowadays the norm is VPN access is available through your standard internet provider. Now, it's interesting that we're talking about this right now, because I think one of the articles I stuck in here was about a law they're trying to pass in Wisconsin. Let's see if I've got this here. Maybe I didn't add it. I was just learning about it. Here we go. Oh yeah, where they want to ban VPNs. They actually want to pass a law where any services that you might access without age verification from Wisconsin. Can you hear me okay?
Poppy, I don't know if this is you, but like your mic's way glitching.
Yeah, I just knocked it with my hand. I'm like, damn it.
A human error in a technology situation.
That's right.
There you go.
It was hanging low enough that I just swiped. You don't understand. I'm talking over here and I need my hands to do that. But thank you. If I bleep out, please let me know. But what they want to do in Wisconsin is they want to make it illegal. Well, first let me say, what they're passing in Wisconsin is a age verification law, so that you would have to go through some kind of vetting to verify that you're old enough to consume certain content on the internet, and they want those content providers to restrict access to anyone that doesn't have age verification. They want to hold the content providers responsible for checking people's ages, and they want to make it illegal to get access to that content if you haven't verified for that age. And in doing so, what they're trying to pass a law saying that those content providers have to police the connections coming into their service and block the IPs for known VPN access. So what has happened in these states that have forced age verification is they've had this boom, this huge uptick in VPN usage, because this is what you do is, if you don't want to identify yourself, you hire a VPN and you go over to another state or another country where age verification doesn't matter, and you consume the same content, but you do it logically from over there and have it sent over to you through the VPN. All that happens very seamlessly. Most people in this group have some form of experience working with a VPN, so we've talked about VPNs a lot, and that's essentially what it's doing for age verification right now. If you go to a site that is in question of needing age verification from Florida, it's going to ask you to verify your age, possibly by essentially sending them a photocopy of your ID. Take a picture of your ID, your passport, whatever it might be. They'll have their own rules for how age verification works. I would be hesitant sending any local government a copy of my passport in this form. It just seems very ripe for exploitation. And it's one of the biggest criticisms about age verification is that you're centralizing lots of personal information in a hodgepodge system that could be easily compromised in the future. We don't have that is to say we the security experts don't have a good way for us to verify people's ages online. It just doesn't exist yet. Not to mention it's a privacy nightmare. So what people do is they hire a VPN. They tunnel to a place where age verification doesn't matter, and then that content provider doesn't have to age verify. One of the ways these content providers have stayed away from these states is they basically just check where you're coming from. So if you're in Florida and you go to an X-rated site, that site sees that you're coming from Florida and says, "Hey, you're not allowed to consume this content without verifying your age." We don't have an age verification system, so you're just out of luck. We're not going to age verify for anyone, and Florida's requiring it, so Florida doesn't get access to this site. That's essentially what content providers, especially low budget content providers, are being forced to do. Is they're forced to just say, no, we can't service you because we can't, there is no system that will verify your age for us.
You're hitting your mic again.
What's that?
You hit your mic again.
I hit my mic.
Careful.
Damn it. Gotta stop talking with my hands.
Watch out.
So, what?
Can,
Oh, go
can
ahead.
I
Do you have a
say
question?
that, like, not really a question, but more of a comment,
Yes.
that, like, not giving personal information online is, like, the first thing I learned about being online. So, yeah, this whole thing is deeply contradictory to some of my main learning experiences
Right.
of my life.
So, yeah, young people are taught that you don't give personal information, but I've noticed what they do is they just lie. So they make up birth dates so they can go on Facebook, or they make up different things. And
Yeah, pseudo personas
Yeah.
are a way of distorting information so that you maintain privacy.
yeah.
Let me tell you, man, I've absolutely lied online. It's my favorite thing to do. All of my accounts have a different birth date on them.
Yeah, and then you have to somehow remember what you've said your birthday is.
Absolutely.
That's been happening for years. It comes back to hurt you when, wait a minute, what did I sign up with? What date? What name? What,
Yeah.
Well,
What
yeah,
school did I say? What?
and you miss out on the ability for them to market to you on your birthday. It's a happy birthday.
What
Have
am I
this
supposed to
20% off. Whatever it might be.
Yeah, I've done that so that the months that we are in Vegas are actually our birth months, but it doesn't work very well because you have to show your ID everywhere. So
Well, maybe you can forge one of those Apple digital IDs, right? Like, it blows me.
I'm
Going
gonna
back to that from the other week, they require a photo of your passport for them to create a hash so that you have this digital ID in your wallet, and they claim that it'll be accepted like a real ID in the United States for all practical purposes except for international travel, and you created that. So it just seems to me like if you had a passport forger that is like low on business because the passports have gotten too sophisticated to really be just like you have to be an expert forger, but maybe you can go back to being sort of an okay forger. Like you don't have the RFID tag or whatever it is. I think that was part of the vetting. You had to wave the phone over the RFID in your passport. That's true. I forgot about that. That was one of the ways you vetted on site was you would take a picture of the passport and then you'd wave your phone. Your phone had to have a near field communication sensor on it so that it could pick up that RFID tag in your passport to verify that this is a legitimate passport. It just feels like a sophisticated passport forger would be able to just exploit that altogether. You wouldn't even have to, you wouldn't stand in line in the DMV for a real ID if you can do it across your phone, but it seems like somebody else could knock out hundreds of them very quickly. I don't know.
I think that's a good point. I think that'd be funny a little bit, but
Well, I think, I mean, if that did end up being the case, then it totally invalidates the security of such a thing as like it makes a mockery of real IDs and digital IDs because they would be so easily compromised.
yeah.
So this article goes into some of the reasons why this is a horrible idea.
Hell yeah.
Because right now, like I said, these content providers are already filtering you for Wisconsin or Florida or one of these states that's making it difficult to consume questionable content. They're just cutting them off from the internet. Now they're saying you need to do the same thing if they come from a pool of known VPN resources. So just like Netflix is able to tell whether you're using a VPN to consume their content, in the past, they give you messages like you're using a VPN, you need to turn this off. They want all content providers that require age verification to do the same thing to that pool of VPN users. No matter where they're coming from, no matter what country they're coming from, no matter what circumstances they're using a VPN under, they want to have them blocked. And this kind of law would be a general, you can't use a VPN in Wisconsin anymore because everything would be banned from having this VPN ability. I don't think they're going to pass this law, but it's a sign of the kinds of thinking that governments in general are having right now. It's very unsophisticated ways of viewing things, or it's very sophisticated because all it does is continue to track people as real people, as their digital persons, and just blatantly gives more fodder for why we need to have a Bill of Digital Rights. Where am I?
Absolutely. Jesus Christ. Sorry, my muttering.
Any comments other than Emily's muttering? Anything people would like to add? I do have some other articles here I'd be happy to talk about.
Yes, what is your view on the current debate going on between the federal versus the states regulating AI?
Oh, that's very interesting, Chester. I think that I've got a very kind of caveman view about it right now. I kind of feel like what we are seeing before us, and I've mentioned this in the past, is this value proposition being offered to us right in front of our faces. We're seeing what it costs and what kind of value is coming out of it. And we see that in the silly videos that are being produced and the math that's being done, telling us how much it costs to do these things, how many resources are being needed, and these data centers that they want to put together. I one of the last numbers I heard was 400 billion for an NVIDIA data center. And so these kinds of things, I think another good example of this is Microsoft wanting to turn 3 Mile Island back on, to give you an idea of the kind of power that these businesses want to consume so that they can put AI in your hands. And I've
heard numbers like 10 trillion.
Yeah. I mean, that should make us all take a step back and and evaluate better what we're asking for, because what has been produced by AI is a lot of nonsense alongside some very helpful things. We always use things like spell checker, grammar checker, translator. These things have been vastly improved by large language models, and should definitely be available to the general public. But we're watching a lot of stuff that is just creating garbage out there, and it's not doing it very well, and it's shaking up financial markets. And at the most, and I said, like, I have a caveman view of it, at the very minimal, it's taking ridiculous amounts of power, which to a new generation that translates to boiling the oceans and burning the forests. That we're just using up even more natural resources quicker because of this kind of I don't know, chalked up demand, this kind of propped up demand that they want to create a supply for something that they have to educate us that we want. And what they've shown us hasn't been much of a value proposition. That what we're seeing from it may be funny, but it's mostly fodder. It's mostly garbage that isn't really doing anything to make anything better, but it's costing quite a bit to consume, to create and consume. And so I guess my attitude towards this now, this is the stance I'm taking, is that I think this is ripe for I got to stop saying regulations, Chester. He likes that word. I want to start using consumer protections that us as a society need to recognize how much damage this generation of technology can do, how much resources that it's taking from us to do this nonsense that I believe probably should never have left the lab. I think that was the point of OpenAI right from the beginning, was that they wanted to study AI responsibly. And I think that the natural resources issue, the electricity issue, should be one of those things that's considered a responsibility. And what we know from previous is that this technology, the silicon, the chips that make this happen, iterate every year. Every 18 months, they're twice as powerful and consume half as much electricity. And so I feel like an innovative, tech-wise representative could put together the correct kind of protections for our society that would eliminate the ability to put this stuff in the hands of the people until a time where that value proposition isn't so costly. That you can right now see an equation for how much electricity is needed for how much technology and how much value there is from it, and say, no, this isn't ready for consumers yet. Keep this in your research and development, but let's not be building $400 billion data centers that still need water to cool down, need electricity to run at this generation of this technology. Let's wait. Let's save this for the researchers. There was no need for any of us to learn about this stuff 3 years ago, except that OpenAI decided they needed money after Elon Musk pulled out his endorsements. There was no reason for any of us to have been exposed to any of this, except Sam Altman needed to sell something to bring revenue into OpenAI. And if they had stuck with this is the reason their board of directors fired him immediately, was because they felt it was irresponsible to put this stuff in the hands of regular people. And they had already done these deals with Microsoft, and Microsoft got involved, and all of a sudden Sam Altman's back. I don't know if you remember the meetings we were having at that time, but I was really beside myself how how capitalism really won in that battle, not ethics. Not I mean, we were not, and we still are not listening to the experts in this field. We're listening to the people that are making the most money, and they're making the most money because of stock prices that are skyrocketing because of the speculation of how much value these things could bring. And everybody is investing in it because they've all been exposed to it now. And so you get a pop of some interesting AI idea out there, and it sends Nvidia's stock market prices up, or AMD's stock market prices up, and everybody that's involved making millions and billions of dollars are considered geniuses. And I'm just sick of wealth being a genius being associated with wealth. It's when they're talking about opening up a nuclear power plant to power these data centers. Chester, go ahead. I see your hand up, and I'm just ranting at this point.
I think that Chester asked the question, do you think it's federal or state?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. It seems like it has to be federal, though. If you hear my rant, it feels like it has to be federal. It feels like it has to be global.
Yeah, I was going to say international. It's more than one country's responsibility or one government's. It has to be the tech world. I don't know who is in charge of that or what kind of groups we have, but
yeah, I mean, I feel like I need to prefix that answer with all that background sentiment that I have, because it may have to happen at a local level or a state level and grow up to a federal level, but it feels like it needs to be a global concern. And one of the things that I appreciate about where we are right now is this is something that you or I can see very easily. That how much is it going to cost and how much do we get out of it has become so clear to us over the last 3 years that I think a dynamic politician that's tech suave could figure out how to associate that equation to where we are in technology at the moment and set protections on people so that we're not using ridiculous amounts of resources to do ridiculous activities.
But I don't know that we globally have dealt with climate very well, or with energy
yeah, but
problems.
there are like I think I read something recently that Colorado passed some kind of environmental regulations that would prevent these kinds of data centers to be opened in their area because of the amount of water that would be needed. It's vague. It's in the back burner of my brain, but I remember just recently reading about how these kinds of things can be thwarted. You can set in place. It's like, look, we don't have a problem with you making data centers, but it's got to take less than this amount of clean water to keep them cool, right? And with those kinds of restrictions, they have to be smaller, or they have to innovate so that they've got better technology. Chester, your hand is still up. Go ahead and talk.
Yeah, I'd like to make 3 points.
Please.
One point is that the investing community, including the stock markets, are beginning to question where that the AI industry is going to make its money. How is it going to make money? Because they have not made a clear case, and that is becoming questionable. And it also brings into jeopardy the current levels of the various markets. The second point is that once and these facilities are actually being built now, and they're going to tie up a significant amount of borrowing capacity that may be needed for other things, including governments, so that the trillions that they're going to need are going to have to be borrowed. And what is that interest rate, and who's going to make those investments? And then the third thing that I'd point out is that administration is recently trying to couple all of the United States laboratories into the AI program so that the concentration can be made into scientific endeavors. So it's all kind of frightening in a way. Those are my comments.
Try this again. Yeah, I appreciate that, Chester. I think we all share those same sentiments. We're fortunate enough to have been following how this is developing. We talk about AI often in this group, and I can't help but feel exactly the same way you do in those 3 points. And I'll add to it that it looks like Nvidia is now about 50% of the S&P. That sounds very dangerous for the financial market, especially if this is just a bubble. This is just a fictitious play of value, speculative value that's going to burst at some point. That's a big toppling. You could bring down half the S&P just with a disillusionment on the technology. And there is somebody was telling me the other day that there's a sentiment that the administration has to back this AI play because it will just devastate the U.S. market. This value proposition that is speculated across so many different areas in the marketplace that to lose that would be to cripple the U.S. marketplace right now. And so they have to keep propping up this idea if they want the U.S. financial markets to look as solvent as they appear to be.
I have come to the personal conclusion that were I in the equities market, I would be out as soon as possible. But I'm not in the equities market.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've mentioned it before, you hear people like Sam Altman or Jeff Bezos talking about these things, and they're really trying to describe this as an infrastructure bubble, kind of like WorldCom, when we got all the fiber optics installed all over the United States. They're talking about data centers and that this would be what will come from that. It's like the wagon train. Here, you know what? We got Richard joining us at the last minute. Let's bring him in. Hey, hello, Richard. I hope you've been listening to our discussion and you've joined us to make comments. That is, if your microphone and camera are working today. Okay, well, deep insight from Richard. We I don't know how much more to add to that, except that's where we are with the AI topic. I think that I don't know whether it has to be local, state, or federal, or global. It does feel like it needs to be a global awareness. And like setting reins, and it's going to look like pollution control, right?
What a good job of hoodwinking everyone they've done.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And definitely. So anyway, that was my only comment on the AI question. But I do have a question about last week's meeting that I couldn't attend.
Oh, yeah.
So in the list of topics, there was a one that you could create a digital passport in your iPhone.
Yes.
Were you able to do that?
I didn't even try. And if you
Well,
were
it
in the
doesn't
meeting,
work in mine.
yeah, we would have talked about there's some things to be concerned about the idea of normalizing a digital ID. And you'll find that in some of the states. There's only 12 states right now that even accept a digital ID.
I am one of those states.
You're in one of those states?
I am Colorado.
Yeah. And so how do you feel about your information being bundled up and available and attached to government services and maybe private services in the future?
But it's already there.
Yeah.
You know, in order to log on to almost anything now, they have this two-factor identification. And then you have, I'm talking right now about Social Security, which was really a pain to log into. So even though I logged into it last month and it was just fine, now there's something new every time you try and log in. But I don't know. I think a digital ID is what's going to happen. It's no different than your digital airline ticket or your digital this, your digital that, you know.
Yeah,
Again,
I don't disagree with you. I think the unfortunate thing is that we are living in a time where the administration and access of that kind of information is scary. That
very.
yeah. And so like you should try and have a privacy footprint. I have trouble going that step farther and authorizing a digital device or a digital representation. I don't know. I just don't trust that whole.
But don't you do that on banking?
I have better I have better sentiment for the baking industry. They have a vested interest in knowing exactly who I am.
Right. They,
Whereas the government has a vested interest in checking the lowest bidder. I mean, like putting that stuff together. And so it's the normalization of this under the current organization of our country that makes me so concerned.
well, just to preface the digital ID thing, I did that before the current um,
Yeah, yeah.
administration when it was first available in Colorado.
Hey, Richard's finally with us. I'm assuming he's been listening along and has a comment he wants to make.
I don't know if I'm actually in here, Scott. Um,
I
I
see
was
you.
having trouble logging in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Mrs. Stimson.
Hello.
It's very interesting discussion. I just think that the market's going to take care of this little problem long before regulation or consumer protection.
Well, when you say that, like Irving had a comment like that at one of our last in-person meetings. Was, well, if you don't respect it, don't appreciate it, don't use it. And
No, I'm not talking about the individual. I'm just,
okay, good.
I think that the market will take care of this in the next year, in 2026. I think they've run out of road or are running out of road.
So you think the
Very
financial portion will probably implode,
Yes.
and the demand will completely sour, so that it'll stop this abuse of resources
Well, I
until
don't think that there is any demand. I mean, when they cite these figures, 800 million people use Copilot. Well, 800 million people use Copilot, first of all, because it's being jammed down their throats. And secondly, they're not paying anything for it. Demand implies, at least from a capitalist standpoint, demand implies something that people are willing to pay for. People are not willing to pay what this product costs to produce. That's why all these companies are losing money and will continue to lose money. And eventually, people with money funding them will tire of that.
Well, that's not happening. I mean,
think it
I
is
hope it
happening.
happens. I hope it happens like that, but we haven't seen that at all. We haven't. I guess. I mean, what we're seeing in the last couple of days is we're seeing the market sour on some of them. They've lost a lot of value in the last few days. But up until the last few days, it's been an all-time high of venture capital. And you aren't
I think
wrong
you'll
when you say
find,
forced down the throats. That the Copilot thing with Microsoft, just even rebranding their Office suite to Copilot 365.
I think you'll find that the market has added back in the last couple of days a very significant portion of what they'd taken away earlier in the week.
Well, Chester, they haven't added it back to my account.
No, I mean, Chester, I think that there are going to be plenty of ups and downs, but again, you're producing something, people are not willing to pay the cost of production.
I'm in agreement with you. I think 2026 is going to be a very interesting year.
Yeah.
And
If you're not invested in these things, it could almost be entertaining.
and there may be nowhere to hide for anyone.
Probably not.
But then I'm the eternal pessimist.
Well, that means that you're right most of the time. You know, Chester, not to hijack this meeting, but there are a couple of articles that Scott and I have discussed by this guy, Ed Zitron, and that they really aren't tech articles. They're finance articles. And neither Scott nor I'm sorry to speak for you, Scott, are particularly qualified to read these articles. But
Fortunately, Richard speaks the truth for me. He's not embellishing. We are the wrong people to analyze any of the financials they're talking about.
But here's the thing, Chester. If we were to send you, and I'll warn you in advance, the longer of the two articles is 16,500 words. So it's a big read. It's a big ask, as people like to say these days. But if we were to send you one of these articles, would you consider, reading this and talking about it? Again, it's not really a tech question. It's a finance question, because this guy, Ed Zitron, is showing how all of these earnings, at least as I understand it, these are all circular deals, right? So you have NVIDIA investing in companies, effectively loaning companies money to buy NVIDIA chips. And it's just this giant circular nonsense.
Yeah, they call that a bubble.
Yeah. But I mean, would you consider reading
Yes,
16,500 words?
Yes, I would be happy to read it, and I read every day the Wall Street Journal, which generally has very good articles on this subject, the financial end of it.
Well, okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
I've achieved my goal. I haven't ever in my life given a former very senior Standard Oil person an assignment. But we'll forward this, and I would be very, very interested. I'm not looking for any agreement or anything. You could say, "Hey, this guy's nonsense," the writer of the articles. But I'd be very interested in what you had to say.
I would love to read it.
Beautiful.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure you get it, Chester. And we can put a link to it. We can put a link to it in one of our documents too, if anybody else is interested. But Richard's not kidding. It's a heavy finance read.
Scott?
Yes.
I was just going to mention about the digital ID. Our province, with our Alberta Healthcare.
You got to say this in 3 minutes or less because we're moving
Okay.
over to the other meeting. Should we do
They
that first?
created, in our province and the province next to us, British Columbia, we have digital IDs that make us able to access our federal services like our income tax, our equivalent to your Medicare, in our provincial medical thing. All my records, all of my blood work, everything is on there. The one thing that upsets me the most about it is that they have changed it from a very secure way of me getting a login and password and having to verify when my driver's license expires, all these kind of things, to opening it up so that you can log in with your Apple ID or your Google.
Right.
And that just upsets me so much that why should I use these other platforms to get into something that is supposedly secure in my personal information with my own provincial government?
Okay,
And
I think that what they're doing there is approving your machine by giving you that very short, easy way to get in. That they're
I
allowing
don't
only that machine to be in.
I don't trust that Google or my even using another ID is the most secure way for me to handle my personal information. So I refuse to use it. I
Well, going
continue
back,
to use.
I mean, going to what Chester is saying, we've got to switch meetings. I dropped the meeting link in our chat meet. So if you don't have it in front of you, you can go to our chat and you'll find a link to it right there. It'll take you to the next meeting. I've already got it opened up and I'm ready to let people in. If you guys are ready to move over to it. But this meeting is going away. All right, let's see here. Look at everybody trying to jump in. Admit all. Admit all. You're all here. Who are we missing? We're missing the folks. And we're missing Emily. It's my family that's not here. Not that you aren't all my family. We'll give them a moment.
So you were saying that Chester, that it makes it easier, but I just think that opens it up to so much more risk.
Yeah,
That was,
even PayPal is doing this. They will give you a
Emily's here.
4-digit code, and you can.
that was my comment about the Social Security site too.
Hello.
Yeah.
Giving you a 4-digit code that approves you of the device that you're using, so that any other computer couldn't get in. It's only that device that's allowed in. I believe that's what's involved.
No, I think Chester, you're correct. What you're doing with that digital wallet is you've authorized that device to act as you. It's not really that security that's the problem. The problem is these janky methods of running on the other side, on the services that you're trying to reach. And then just the obnoxious way that a group like Doge, which consequently has been disbanded very quietly, it doesn't exist anymore in the US government, came together into various databases and threw all this data together. So it's the janky way that our current situation is coming together that should give you pause about attaching one more thing to it. I'm afraid I'm not the expert to talk about it at the moment, but it does lend itself for concern. And then making it easier for all of that web of information to be connected to you in some way that could be compromised. I just don't see that as this is not a good moment for that. Now, maybe it's a different situation in Canada. I know that Mexico is just like they're still like, I just went and got new immigration paperwork renewed because the bank wouldn't give me a bank account unless my immigration paperwork was less than 10 years old. Even though immigration doesn't care, the bank cares. And after some soul searching, it's like, well, yeah, they should care, because I bet it's much easier to do bank fraud with older credentials than it is with newer credentials. And sure enough, all I had to do was go in and get a picture and fingerprints, right? To get my ID updated from, but I had to go through that vetting process with immigration before the bank would even take me seriously.
Scott, are you speaking about your permanente?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
My permanente is older than 10 years, or it was.
So is-
You know,
So is
I
mine.
think there's a difference, Scott, that you were at least dealing with the government. I find it kind of amazing that Canadian uh, government services would encourage the use of uh, identity tools that come from private U.S. corporations.
Sure. No, that's a good point to be
I
made.
mean, that's kind of, isn't that a little? I mean, I understand. You know,
Again, though, I think those tools
why
actually have been vetted
why don't they require TikTok credentials?
right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's not what we're talking
Snapchat.
about. Back to Chester's point on the device, these tools have been vetted as secure tools. But you've got a good point. Why would the Canadian government endorse a foreign company's security tools? Why? I mean, you would think at the very least they would have an alternative that you should be using, like a Canadian platform that they put together themselves that you would carry
that's-
around as the wallet that holds your digital ID.
Well, that's where it started. It was a secure, and I felt quite confident when it first came up. There were other people that said to me, you know, why would you want that information? And I said, because I have to travel between different specialists and different people. And it's nice that I have it. I have all that information and I have access to it. So that's why I created my login in the first place many years ago. But when they started bringing in these other ways of logging into it, I questioned what's the motive? Why do we need this when we have already had something that was unique to this digital ID? Why go to something like Google or there's three different choices that you can log in using your Apple ID, your Google, and there's one more and I can't. Maybe it wouldn't be Instagram. Facebook. Maybe it is Facebook. There it
Maybe.
is. That's
Maybe
it.
with passkeys, it's not
you
hard to
serious?
imagine that anything that has decided to vet you successfully could be possibly used.
But I don't want Facebook, Meta, whatever,
Sure.
having any kind of anything to do with this login. So
Well,
And you know, the other problem with device authentication, just conceptually, okay, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but there's in security, they talk about an evil maid attack. And an evil maid attack is you're in a hotel room and you go down to breakfast and the maid gets into your room and has access. Well, if I get into your house, I guess, you know, if your computer's booted up, I guess I can walk around your Canadian health records.
Well,
Right.
that's not necessarily true. I mean, part of this is the secure enclave that we talk about that's made up of different biomarkers and hardware that makes it unique. I mean, you have to have that device, but you have to have you as well. A proxy for you is very difficult.
Is that the case with this?
Yes, absolutely.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, if you're
Is
using
that the case with this? Is this looking for a fingerprint? Is this looking for
facial ID or a PIN number. That's the point of the digital ID in the Google Wallet or the Apple Wallet, is that it hits markers that need to have already been vetted. So you couldn't pick up somebody's phone and open up their wallet. You'd have to satisfy facial recognition, fingerprint recognition.
Yeah, I know
or
you're
PIN.
saying a phone, but let's say
The
Ms.
computer's
Howell
the
is using
same
a
way.
desktop computer.
Yeah, the computer's
No.
the same way.
well, But my digital ID, I can access from my iPad, from a laptop, from my phone. I can get into it. It's a website. It's a, I can use it as an app, or I can go online onto a browser in two different ways. But the login is the same. So it's just opening it up. I understand that Google has vetted me and they know who I am and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think they need to know what's going on in my provincial.
I think there's a misconception here. If I could
know that you are sitting at your computer, not me.
Yeah. And I do think there's a misconception here, because I think I want to use an analogy of having keys made. And essentially you're having keys made branded Apple or branded Google. But they're not Google keys or Apple keys. They're just keys. You're using your device. That's the brand of the key you're using, but the key itself isn't associated specifically with any particular service. It's recognized at the place that you're doing authentication, but how that key was created doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah, but again, as a practical matter, if I sit down at Cheryl's booted up computer, her laptop.
Right. Cheryl would have to have opened up all her securities to make it possible for a stranger to act as her. And you've seen computers like that. You've seen people like, no, I don't want any passwords. I don't want... And there's certain things that you can't do without adding those markers to your device. There are services out there that won't allow you to do these pass keys unless you've put other passwords in place. If you look at like a Windows laptop and you're using Chrome and Edge, when you start using these things and you start saving passwords, it encourages you to tie them to your markers. That's whether it be facial recognition or fingerprint or PIN, so that you're required to have those things whenever you ask for a password to let you in, or you ask for a pass key to let you in. And so you'd have to tamp all that down, make all that very unsecure, so that you could come along to an open laptop and perform those. And granted, this is all new. This has all happened in the last few years, Richard. And what you're describing is a scenario that was very easily done 10 years ago. You walk across an open computer in a cafe internet and you have open access to anything that computer can reach. But with this bigger demand for security, they've changed those paradigms now. And that's what part of this is about, is these new ways of looking at security. Every time I use a password out of my computer that's stored there waiting for me to get into a service, it requires me to verify that I am who I am. I have to pass at least a PIN to get that password out. And if I'm using a password manager, well, they've got other ways of verifying me, like facial recognition or a fingerprint. Or I could type in the full password to get into that password manager. But these are ingrained now in the operating systems of these devices, if that makes sense.
No. I still don't understand with Cheryl's booted up computer, with all of her crap programmed in to log in. What's it going to do? It doesn't have a fingerprint reader.
Right, it's going to ask for the PIN for her computer.
No, it's booted up.
Right, but it goes through alternate authentication in circumstances where it needs to use a pass key or it needs to use a password. So you approach a service.
Two-factor is mandatory?
No, that's what I'm saying, is that you can have it misconfigured so that it is completely open. But if you're using defaults on these devices now, you're required to use a PIN to get into those passwords. That
I think that my biggest concern would be that,
Are you required, Cheryl, to use a PIN to get into your passwords?
yes, recently I have been, with, in Chrome and different things like that. It usually asks me, if I'm on my iPad, it asks me for my Apple ID PIN before it'll go into my, it was with the last upgrade on the iPhone and the iPad that came about, that I have to do that. But to me, it just doesn't seem necessary to go to these other places when we had, where I can still use my original login password that I created directly with
the Canadian
Yeah.
government.
with the Alberta, yes, my provincial government. I
Yeah.
can go and use that, and I don't use those other choices. They're there for me. My concern would be if I went to use one of those other ones, I don't know that I've locked it down, Scott. I don't know. I think that sometimes things, I just do it because it's convenient, and I would rather not.
I definitely hear
Well,
your
and you know
point.
what, and you know what else the Canadian government has done to you here? Is there's another concept in security, which is attack surface, right? So when it was only the Canadian government login, you only had to worry about their data security. But
Right.
now you have to worry about the data security of Google,
Yeah.
of Meta,
Yeah.
and whatever the other one was, because that's sitting out there as legitimate logins to your Canadian
Well,
health account.
I mean, I think it's getting a bit convoluted. Like what you just rattled off is an or, not an and, because it's based on what you're using, and then what you're using. Again, the analogy of you're generating keys. You've got an Apple key generator. You've got a Microsoft key generator. But the key itself isn't associated with any particular software, service. There is the key
But they're
itself
giving me
is
the
not.
opportunity
And
to.
and I would give you this alternate just to play devil's advocate in this. And I do agree, Cheryl. I think that the Canadian government should take full responsibility of being vetted as secure. And what I would give you is this: the real world is that government isn't really good at things like that. They're always playing catch up with things like that. And if you want to have a good job done by somebody, if you wanted good security, you do a good security company. They would be the ones that would. So if you want to have good keys made, you go to a good key maker. And that's the only thing I would say is that in the long run, especially in a capitalistic society, you would expect somebody that made it their job to make keys to make the best damn keys in the world. And you wouldn't expect the government to be able to make a better one. You'd expect them to be able to hire somebody to make a better one. Now, I agree with you in terms of this is way too important. This is way too personal. This affects every one of us in our society, and our government should take responsibility to be that entity that is the best key maker. But that's not the world we live in. That's not the way it goes. And when you tell me that I can use my Apple wallet to verify my identity, I'm more concerned about how poorly the government's going to deal with it than how poorly Apple's going to deal with it. Apple's proven that they can do those things. The problem is with Apple's, I'm going to pull out my key and there's going to be a dozen advertisements attached to it. They might sign a deal with the Canadian government that your health pages have to have banner ads on them if you're going to be able to get in with your Apple ID or your Apple key. I mean, those are the kinds of things that bother me about this stuff. But we've run long. Fred, I'm sorry you haven't been with us since the beginning. You would have really enjoyed this conversation. I recommend you go back and look at the YouTube. We've been at it for a while now.
Well, I was having internet problems.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you on a boat right now?
Yep.
That would explain it.
We're crossing the Panama Canal right now.
Oh, excellent.
Really?
Oh, look at that.
You look off in the distance and see the Bridge of the Americas. It goes over
Oh,
the
wow.
Panama Canal.
Excellent. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to shut this meeting down. I've actually got appointments today I got to run off for, and I'm starting to run out of time. I've got some topics in our document that I'd like to get back to next week, specifically when we talk about tracking people, tracking drivers, the fingerprinting browsers, how VPNs won't protect your privacy. I think these are great topics for next week. And then there's this interesting green algae filter that I knew nothing about until recently. And so we should bring that up. So I'll save those topics for next week. And thank you for a great conversation. And until next Tuesday, tech on, everybody.
Tech on. Yippee.
All right. Adios.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I guess
All right. Well, we did it. That was another San Carlos Computer Club meeting, a virtual meeting. Hopefully we'll be back in Tequilas next week. Hopefully Jonathan's got the electricity sorted out, so we'll have the big screen there. You're welcome to join us next week. Until then, either on YouTube or in person, everyone, tech on.